The United Nations has declared pretty much a global emergency, cause for concern for an epidemic. They have not labelled it a pandemic. It is not going to kill 10% of the population.
Yeah.
Just yet.
Yep. Oh my gosh, where do we start? Because this is at the moment, this is such a, it is and it isn't. Because on the news, when you turn on your mobile phone, it's almost impossible to get away from the coronavirus. But then you kind of look at the general consensus of people, especially people that are traveling, and they say, I've had my parents travel around Asia, and they're saying it's not as bad. It's like people aren't really covering up and wearing the mask like has been reported, but it's one of the. I think for me personally, it's really hard to distinguish whether this is if this is underplayed or overhyped. Well, I think that's where a lot of people are. Is this really something cause for concern, or is this really just either a diversion or even an excuse for some other thing to be pushed?
A distraction.
Yeah. A distraction, yeah.
Well, let me jump straight on the first bit. I was about to cut you off, but I didn't. This is not the coronavirus.
Yeah.
This is a coronavirus.
Yep.
Now there is already 6 existing coronaviruses, including SARS and MERS, and everyone knows about them.
Yep.
It's termed a coronavirus because the biological molecular structure or something has these spikes. Like, it looks like a crown. They call it looks like a crown, corona, crown, some resemblance there. So this is not the coronavirus. All the people out there saying the coronavirus, no, it's not the coronavirus. It is a coronavirus.
It's 1 out of 7.
There is now a 7th. So it's just another strain. And as we say, it's just a rebranding of the same shit.
Yeah.
New fear, new year, as some people said to me, which I quite enjoyed.
New year, new fear. That's a really good one. Yeah.
So,
like, how many of these types of diseases have we seen? Just really quickly, because we've seen SARS, we've seen MERS, we've seen H1N1, we've seen things like foot and mouth,
swine flu and bird flu. I'm not too sure, and I just want to jump in quickly. In the middle of this whole novel 2019 novel coronavirus epidemic, there has been an outbreak of bird flu.
Yeah, while all this shit's happening. There's bird flu as well.
In China, they've just gone and slaughtered thousands of chickens. Good on them.
Because of the scare of the bird flu. Yeah.
But, well, in terms of actual coronaviruses, this is the 7th. Yeah. Well, they've identified as the 7th coronavirus. And coronaviruses start, I don't even know the dates. This shit's old. It is old. We go through this many, many times. The thing with this one is a lot of people are comparing it to the SARS virus back from 2003 in the way that it is spreading quickly and it is killing a bunch of people.
And the fact that it's a respiratory disease as well.
It's just like SARS with a bit of extra oomph.
Yeah, it's got some spice to it.
Got some spice to it now, So in terms of, I think on the last podcast, our numbers were 56 or something, like in the 50.
Yeah, you actually said 51. 51. I corrected you with 56.
Yeah, we are now over 300.
And I also wanted to stress before, because of how ongoing this is, I wanted to refrain from almost mentioning a specific number.
Yeah, well,
because it's going to keep moving.
It's going to keep moving, but at this point in time,
380.
Over 300. Yeah, between 300 400 deaths right now. 17,000 plus infected. The number that a lot of people aren't putting out there is the amount of people that have survived, recovered from it. And this is over 500 people of the people that have been diagnosed and sick. Over 500 have recovered from this.
Yeah, you're not going to hear their fucking story.
Yeah, you don't hear about that.
You only hear about the people dying, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a whole a way to calculate is based on percentage as well. With the SARS virus, I'm not too sure how many people got infected. But
yeah, the actual ratio.
Yeah. But I think the number of deaths was only 800 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to use these numbers because I can't confirm these numbers. But there's a big argument between whether SARS and this 2019 novel coronavirus is which one's more deadlier. Like which one is worse? At this point in time, in the ratio, the let's say the graph of the way it's affecting and killing, this one seems a bit worse because it is affecting a lot of people. It's reaching the other side of the world. So,
and it has a real time delay before it shows any symptoms as well.
Yeah, so people get quarantined for, they say like 10 within 10 days they start showing symptoms.
For me it was trying to, I guess, stack up the current novel coronavirus against all the other ones that have happened in the past. I mean, we've seen that, like, in the tens of thousands, people are dying of the common cold, the flu in America. So I know I had a wacky theory before about, like, if you manage to categorize and extrapolate and focus on one of the strains that was killing people out of that 80,000, it would appear to be an epidemic or a pandemic.
Yep.
So it's all about how you want to package it and sell it, because you could say this is not as bad, but then you could say this is really bad. But unfortunately, a lot of people are buying into that fear that it is really bad. But
well, let's put it out. So when we did the last podcast, when we first talked about it, it was really only isolated in China with a few sort of infections here and there.
Yep.
Since then, we've had people infected in Australia, the United States, Germany,
Canada.
There's been deaths in the Philippines. So it has become global. It is global now.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a pandemic. There's people out there, doctors with a certificate that says they're a doctor, that says this is not a pandemic and it'll probably be gone in a couple of weeks, and it's not going to kill 10% of the population like everyone fears.
Yeah.
And this is something that it's now, especially in 2020, it's being so early in the year, how quickly social media, how quickly information has jumped on it. Now, I think that what gives us these numbers, what makes it so significant, what makes people paying so much attention to it, is how quickly this information spreads, how quickly people are talking about, how quickly this fear is happening, how quickly people are buying up their 3M bloody dust masks, which aren't going to do shit, by the way.
Yeah.
And
yes and no, yeah. Yeah. I mean, because, a lot of those viruses can penetrate those conventional masks. And if you buy a cheap cotton one off eBay, it's something, but I don't think it'll actually help.
Yeah. You're better off just washing your hands and not spitting in someone's face. Like.
Yeah. I mean, it has, I just want to stress that it has the same virility as the common cold. So you have to come into contact with someone by either saliva, like the virus has to get in you. You can't just grab it. You can't catch the virus from someone literally touching you. Yeah. So you have to... I don't know. I mean, like Scott Morrison said, those masks don't do shit. But if you were walking amongst like a sea full of people wearing the masks, I would rather be wearing one than not wearing one.
It will definitely mitigate risks, and
even if it's by 1%, that you don't get it.
Every little bit helps. That's for sure.
Yeah. I just find the timing immaculate, because we were, our last episode was called The Year of the Rat, and like I in particular was saying how the timing is immaculate, for China to go through a borderline revolution on the streets of Hong Kong.
Which, by the way,
which people are eerily silent about right now. Yeah, people have just magically forgotten about that. But to suffer that destabilization plus this health destabilization. Plus now the lockdown on like 50 million people in Wuhan, and on top of that, like all of the trade restrictions now with China, and then you get into like, if you really wanted to kneecap China, this is how you fucking do it.
Well, the whole thing is, so in the current day and age, in the year 2020, in the year of the rat, isn't a bat just a flying rat, and don't diseases fly? Yeah. So information has gotten out so much quicker.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's caused a lot of this really heightened alarms and panic and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, sort of fair enough. That's what's going to happen. Given the current environment that we live in digitally, let's say.
Yeah. And political climate. Yeah.
So given that the information is coming out quite so quickly and people are jumping on it, is that we now have the World Health Organization. So a lot of this information about this new coronavirus is coming from the World Health Organization. They are the ones that are sort of giving out the information. They're the ones that are giving the directions. They are the ones that sort of explaining, giving everyone, like telling everyone what's going on and how to deal with it.
And they set the standard of whether this is a pandemic or epidemic. They'll ring the alarm bells. It's up to them.
Everyone is relying on the World Health Organization to help us survive. Anyway.
Big mistake.
A big mistake, because now the World Health Organization is sitting down with Google.
Yeah.
And they are coming up with a plan to manipulate search results so that anyone trying to find information on this new coronavirus will get the information that they choose. They will get the information that they deem correct, or they say should be.
Basically, the narrative that they want to push out as to what's happening is what's going to get the airplay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where this has stemmed from is early on, when, back even just before we did that first podcast we did, a lot of information started coming out on both sides, and talking about, obviously what's happening in Wuhan, China, and how the infection came from bats and infected people. But there was also this information coming out that the virus could have been manufactured in laboratories. And it sparked the mainstream media to just jump on top of these stories, these so-called conspiracies that the virus could have been manufactured. There were memes coming out showing some Chinese company that has a logo that looks like the Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil. And actually, if you work out Raccoon City, it's been Raccoon, and it's an acronym for Corona.
Yeah, it's an anagram, actually. Yeah.
But for me, I think that they probably took Raccoon from Corona, because Corona's been around for a lot longer than Resident Evil.
Yeah, this is where it gets weird, because I do believe whenever something happens that there's the real shit and there's disinfo.
Well,
intentionally planted to make the conspiracies look stupid.
Yes. Well, the thing, when I saw that meme, when I saw that picture, I thought, that's kind of funny. But I think on that podcast I was saying how I tried to find that laboratory in China. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Couldn't verify it.
Couldn't even show that it existed, and all the websites were 404s not found. Anyway, but my point is that all this information, all these alternative media was coming out so quickly. Whether, and as you're saying, some of the information might be verifiable, some of it could be disinformation. So the media comes out talking about this disinformation, how people are coming up with these conspiracies that the virus was manufactured in a laboratory, and the guy's sitting there with his eyes wide open, he's kind of nervous, and he's like saying all this stuff, well, it's obviously false.
What is Facebook doing?
Well, Facebook is removing or fact-checking a lot of these viral hoaxes that are spreading on the platform. You mentioned vaccines. That being one, there's some people out there spreading these misinformation that the pharmaceutical companies, came up with this virus.
Yeah,
and that was a vaccine. Yeah. It's obviously false, but they spread a lot on Facebook.
So news outlets need to help by fact-checking and debunking the lie.
I'm like...
looking nervous as shit.
I'm like, okay, so Fox News has just told me that this information is false, so I'm going to believe them. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely, I'm going to believe Fox News.
Yeah.
But now we see the World Health Organization teaming up with Google to manipulate the search results.
Now, I don't even see this as isolated to this particular coronavirus update, the virus outbreak. I actually see, in fact, even 2019, early to 2020, it has been a symptom that I've seen reoccurring all the time. The mainstream media is actually coming out and addressing conspiracies.
Yes.
Not only addressing them, but outlining specifically what type of conspiracies. Now, we've seen it happen. Okay, look, I'm not saying I'm on either side of any of these events. Like, I'm not picking a side, I'm not implying anything, but it's happened with the bushfires, it's happened with Epstein, it's happened with this virus, it's happened all the way to things like the impeachment, to Brexit. Like, all these things that have culminated, like, in these last couple of months, the common thread is, for the first time, I've seen mainstream media coming out and going out of their way to legitimize the threat of conspiracies.
Yes.
Saying, you gotta be careful, and I'm like, if conspiracies are so far-fetched and ridiculous, why the fuck do you care?
Yes.
Why do you care so much?
Every now and then you'll find the mainstream media mention a conspiracy behind some kind of story, but they put it out there and they just dismiss it. But right now, you see them jumping on it like they're trying to put out a fucking bushfire.
Yeah, like damage control. Actual damage control, where they're like... And I cop flack about saying some shit about Instagram doing the same thing, about having to verify information before you're allowed to view it.
Yes.
Things like that. And what I actually think... is a byproduct of all these events is it's a perfect time for these people to capitalize on controlling the news.
Yes.
It's Operation Mockingbird all again from the CIA.
Well, everyone's forgotten that Facebook and Google were getting reamed by Congress just last year about their whole privacy and their
their ability to sway votes, to change people politically.
And their whole crackdown on misinformation. The same thing. Saying that these companies can essentially decide what information people see.
Yeah.
Now, one of the citing conspiracies that in this article that I've read with Google and the World Health Organization is a conspiracy that they've developed a vaccine. And I have a report from BBC with interviews from because I say so when this virus came out, China was quickly releasing the genome structure of this virus,
of the virus,
and sending it out to researchers around the world to help them to work on it. We have the University in Melbourne actually developed the virus themselves,
recreated the
virus back in Melbourne to allow them in attempts to research. But in this BBC documentary, they sit down with some doctors and medical people that openly say that they have created a vaccine and that they're trying to ship it out to medical clinics around the world.
China quickly shared the genetic code for the virus with researchers around the world, and now they're working to create a vaccine.
We worked overnight, and the next day we had designed a vaccine. We immediately put that vaccine into manufacture, which is the stage that it's currently in, and we hope that that will be entering into human clinical trials by early summer. That timeline is absolutely unprecedented in vaccine development.
Now,
So they're trying, I think within a year they'll have enough to ship out or something like that. Was it within a year?
yeah, well, they
Or even quicker, yeah.
yeah, so they've developed a vaccine.
Yeah.
They're putting it through medical trials, and they're trying to ship it out to clinics. But that's a conspiracy. And so Google is now manipulating search results so that if you try to find that information, it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Because what do you need to know about the coronavirus is you can die.
Yeah. It's weird how the fear-mongering can stay, but the hope has to be erased.
The same idea that they're hiding the numbers of people that have recovered.
The people that are recovering from the virus, let's hide that. The fact that there is a cure, let's hide that. The fact that if you catch the virus, you have a high chance of actually surviving, let's hide that. Let's just keep talking about the amount of fucking people dying and the lockdowns.
Now this is where it stems as well, because you've got the US locking down their flights. You've got Australia locking down their flights.
You've got China trying to lock down 50 million people.
50 million people locked down China. And China's economy is dropping. And not only is their economy dropping, but their, their sort of...
their reputation.
That's the word. Their reputation is dropping so much that articles are now coming out about a new fucking race war. And this is what shits me off, is how so many people... And, okay, I'm going to tell the story right now, and I hope if that girl is listening to this podcast, I hope she gets infected. So we were walking back here, and... This Asian couple, like an older Asian couple, must have been in their 50s, 60s, walking down the road, holding hands, with masks on. And this group of 4 younger people, obviously just come back from fucking Amplifier Capital or something, walking down the street. And this young girl, in a little spritzy short skirt, turns around as they walk past each other. Like, we're standing there. They walk one way, they were right in front of us. She turns around over her shoulder and she's like,
yeah.
I've never seen so much fucking insulting fucking racism bullshit in my fucking life. I hope she gets infected. And the funny thing is, she's probably the one that's going to be infected, because those two wearing the masks that are having a nice couple outing holding hands aren't going to get infected because they're protecting themselves with masks.
Yeah.
That's the shit that pissed me off. And that's the shit that starts pissing me off, is when people start turning this to a fucking race culture war, saying that, the Chinese people eat bats, or the Chinese people live in these small community polluted environments.
And that's what I've been seeing a lot of in comments, in kind of underhanded people muttering under their breath. I hear a lot of, what do you expect? It's China. Like a lot of that sort of stuff, which before I would have been like, I kind of see where you come, but now it's like, just wake up, because I think you're falling into that trap. People that buy into that are falling into the trap that this is a cultural thing. You see a lot of like xenophobic people, like it's a platform now for them to justify their fear and go, I fucking told you.
You know what?
I fucking told you.
You want to know what I think it is?
What?
I think it's a way to... They're trying to bring China down.
I think it is, yeah. They're trying to knock them down a peg. Not totally fuck them, but just...
Yeah.
Kick them down a little notch.
Give them a bit of a kick in the shin.
Yeah.
Saying, chill out. Because now, I don't want this to come out racist or anything, but we all know China's a bit of a bitch. We all know China's a bit of a cunt when it comes to the way they do business.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying that. No, they don't do anything illegal. some of their business ethics might be a bit unethical.
Yeah.
And we look at it from, say, our perspective and go, well, that's kind of, what have you done here? You're sort of,
you're cutting corners.
You're cutting corners, and you're
buying out people.
You're purposely driving other businesses into the ground so you can buy them up and you can take over. Like, well, if you're sitting at the head of a fucking big business, that's a way to do it. That's business 101.
Yeah.
But on the other perspective, we're just kind of like, oh, that's a bit shit.
That's a bit much, yeah.
But and at the same time, now you can see how, you looked at how there was a big China-US argument going over Huawei and the technology and stuff.
Yeah.
And China and America have always been fucking head-to-head. And now you look at how, they're cutting off their flights and the Chinese economy is now dropping down. Not only that, but their food supply. It was back late last year, there was a something to do with the pork that was coming out of China. In Australia, the import pork that we got in Australia, that there was something fishy, or there was some sort of call it?
Some contamination.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
And we just said before that that bird flu broke out and they just slaughtered a bunch of chickens. So there's a lot of this kind of what I see and what I believe could possibly be happening, or possibly a motive behind it, is trying to, fuck China's economy and make people not want to purchase food or not export food as well to China.
Plus the added tension of Asians in other countries, which is, and remember, like what I said before about the timing is immaculate. Like, you see Hong Kong getting hit with those riots, plus now this.
Yeah, well, those riots have disappeared. Like, I haven't heard it. I don't know what's going on over there anymore.
But, like, we've worn our tinfoil for a while, and we've always said the same thing. I firmly believe that regardless of how much China gets slapped on the wrist, it still is the model that a lot of Western countries are striving towards, which is a technocracy, surveillance, New World Order state where everybody is watched, tracked. You hear people now, like in China now, their mobile phone is the primary source of making payments through WeChat and stuff like that. So children are getting their face scanned before going into class. Like, all this stuff is stuff that I think the West is envious of. They want that model of surveillance, and it's coming here regardless of whether you like it or not. But first they're going to sell it to you through fucking smartphones and shit. So they want you getting used to this idea of a technological surveillance state.
Well, what they're going to do, they're going to make the West hate the Chinese. They're going to make the West hate them.
On the surface, yeah.
On the surface. But then they're going to bring in the same model that the Chinese use.
Yeah.
And we're not going to think about it. We're not going to say, hey, what we're doing is what the Chinese are doing. We're going to be like, well, fuck the Chinese because we have safety, we have security, we have fresh produce. Actually, no, I reckon they're going to start saying we can't have fresh produce. We can't farm animals. We can't have any agriculture. We need to start GMOing food. We need to start having processed food, because that way no bacteria, no viruses. Fuck China. We don't need their imports. Fuck China. They're not going to have our export.
We're going to grow our own meat in a test tube.
Yes, because it's safe.
Yeah.
And at the same time, to prevent any future epidemics or viruses, we're all going to have to get these vaccines. Mandatory because we don't want this shit happening again.
There you go.
And on top of that, in order to avoid this disinformation that Fox News says we've got, we're going to have to start censoring the internet, which is fucking happening. Don't forget, for fucking Zuckerberg and Google, we're getting reamed about it. And now here's Google fucking working with the World Health Organization to do just fucking that.
The same thing, yeah. Yeah, but people are still going to log into Facebook. I mean, like it really... I don't know, man. Like we just sound like a bunch of old cunts, but we have slowly. Early 2000s, I was like, this shit's going down. This is how it's just to watch it all unfold. This is our sport.
It's distractions.
It is.
It's got nothing to do with the fucking virus.
You got to read between the lines because it's nothing to do with the virus, but it's getting you in a heightened emotional state.
Yeah, like look at me. I'm getting fucking angry, and I shouldn't be.
It's getting you in a heightened emotional state, just like a school shooting. Just like climate change, like all that, it's getting you
like a terrorist attack,
like something that really pulls at the heartstrings, right? Like a disease or a plague or something like that, right? And people that are fearful will agree to ridiculous laws, and that's what's happening now. Yeah. People are going to settle for less, and people are going to demand more security. I don't know, but But
the thing is, This is exactly the ammunition that they need for their agendas. This is the vaccination. This is the censorship, the information censorship. This is the security. This is the control.
This is the martial law lockdown of a country, right? Remember how I was saying as well that it could be nothing to do with the virus. It could be about how quickly can we lock down borders? How quickly can we shut down flights? How quickly can we disrupt economic trade routes? Yeah. Like, how quickly can we stop all this just with the fear of a virus?
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, if China was responsible for this, they would not give out the genome, the structure behind this vaccine, and ask for other people to help in the vaccine, which they have, but that's a conspiracy.
Once again, we see this global mind game being played where they tell you what's happening, but then if you mention it, it's a conspiracy. I don't get that. It's part. I personally think it's part of the confusion. It's part of the.
It's all.
No. It's like
distraction.
Hey,
deception.
We saw that
problem, reaction, solution.
We saw that leak come out of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and their relationship, right? But it's the same thing of where they yell at you about a problem. But then when you bring up information about it, they go, "No, you're crazy. That doesn't exist," right? Yeah. So the fact that they have to come out, especially in mainstream news, the fact that mainstream news have to keep reiterating, don't listen to conspiracies.
Essentially, what they're saying is, don't look up your own information. Yeah. Don't look up information for yourself.
That's literally what they're saying.
Just read what they're saying. Just accept what they say.
And we're here to fucking break that shit down. Because
wow,
we're the last line of defense. Who the fuck else is doing this shit?
Nah.
Who the fuck else here is doing this shit?
No,
well, there are people out there. Okay,
I think that is the big crux of the situation. Is I almost feel like we went through a conscious shift as well.
Yeah.
Through our new non-decade, where I think, the whole woke, the hashtag woke is actually a thing, because I think a lot of people have just realized that there is a lot of bullshit going on.
Yes.
And there is so much of this crap happening at the same time to cover up from some elite fucking pedophile world elite ring.
Yeah.
Which is fucking real, and that's why Chester Bennington and fucking Chris Cornell were fucking murdered. But it's
what? Yeah, I
think people are realizing it, and that is why they're going into this damage control, and they're trying to just bombard us with all this confusion and hype, hysteria, fear.
I think the old tricks are not working anymore.
Oh no!
I think they've used the same template too many times, right? they're running out of resources, they're running out of time, they have to lock it in. And they're getting desperate.
Yeah.
And they have realized that the one thing that was birthed from DARPA and the military-industrial complex, which was the internet, has come full circle to bite them in the ass. And the shit that they used to get away with, they can't anymore, right? So the only way is, like we see with the World Health Organization, these fucking assholes now have to work with these global search engines and global corporate, to actually censor information because they can no longer control what's leaking. They are losing their grip, so they have to come out now with the name calling and calling us, don't listen to these fucking crazy conspiracy.
I've said it before, and I'll always maintain, I do not trust anyone that is associated with the United Nations.
No.
And now with the World Health Organization, now just put the word world in there. And the World Health Organization essentially has precedence over the world. They dictate the fucking world. And now they're working with Google to manipulate search results, to make sure that the top results when you search for the new 2019 novel coronavirus is what the World Health Organization wants you to fucking know. Get fucked.